Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for today's D2C Multiverse live stream session. As always, I'm your host, Sarah, and today we have Jess Cervellon, who is the head of CX at Feastables and has been driving meaningful customer experiences for over 12 years. Throughout her career, she has worked with a wide range of companies across various industries, including e-commerce, retail, healthcare, financial services, and technology. Today, she is on a mission to deliver the best results that drive customer satisfaction and loyalty for early stage brands. So Jess, why don't you tell us a little bit about your backstory?
Yeah. Before I even get started though, I want to just say I appreciate you saying my last name correctly.
I checked your LinkedIn. I made sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah. Fun fact, I actually went to art school and when I graduated from art school, I said I wanted nothing to do with art. So I then started this long career in customer service, customer support, as well as like customer success. I know we briefly mentioned like some of my background, but I actually started in the banking industry and I was a teller and then I was a personal banker. And then I made my way into the travel industry and I was a customer success manager and then a team leader. And then back in like 2016 is when I kind of got my start into like startups, less of like corporate America type of roles. And I worked at my first startup and actually had my first opportunity in creating a holistic customer experience department. So it was bridging the gap between travel agent support as well as like tech support. And that was really interesting to trying to teach travel agents who are traditionally they're like to book travel and nothing to do with tech support, right? And then, from that startup, I then went into a cybersecurity startup, a health tech, like all these like other types of like tech roles, ranging from doing customer success, customer support, and again, like creating holistic customer experience departments. And back in 2021, I don't know, the years are all molding together at this point. I had the opportunity to enter into the D2C world and work with Feastables. And so this another fun fact, this is actually my first D2C brand. However, I think my background in customer experience, going through like a large range of like types of businesses and that relationship building was honestly a very unique but good pathway into D2C because it's not that like tech and D2C are really that different, because what you're doing is essentially building relationships with your customers and you're just doing it in different types of tactics. And then, I also have Feastables, but I also have a side brand experience consulting company, as well as I am a co-host of a podcast called Oopsie Podcast.
That's so cool. And I love the name Oopsie Podcast. Do you want to go into a bit about how that came to be based on your brand experience consulting?
Yeah. Well, funny, my co-host Zoe and we actually met in a CX Discord channel with a bunch of other like CX leaders in the e-com space. And, everybody makes a mistake, man. Like I don't think we can ever be perfect. And we really just like live, laugh, learn, right? And Zoe and I just like got on the conversation one day about like, oh, I made this oopsie with like this email marketing campaign. And I was like, oh, well, don't worry, girl. I've made this oopsie. I've done these things, right? And it kind of like molded into this. We should do a funny podcast about this. And we started talking about like these mistakes that you make. And mistakes have ranged not just in like customer experience or brand experience, also in like people leadership, right? But I think what's really important is bringing light to those mistakes and making others feel like they're not, like you're human. Like you can make a mistake, but it's what you do with after that mistake. Like, what did you live, laugh, and learn about it, right? So now the podcast is like molded into not just Zoe and I. We have like several guests on the podcast who also share mistakes, and ranging anywhere from marketing to HR to finding brands or being a founder of a brand. Like it's all over. Our guests are all over the map, but I think at the core of what the podcast is about, it's literally live, laugh, learn. What D2C career mistakes did you make, and what did you learn from it?
What's your favorite D2C oopsie moment that you can share? Or it could be any oopsie moment, up to you.
Honestly, this one is a very common one because this happens all the time. And I think people they're like, oh God, like, I can't believe I did that, right? It's email marketing. You have a list of like 2,000, 5,000 people, 100,000 people, whatever it is, right? Like, I wouldn't even say your list, maybe your segment, whatever. And something that I've done that I laugh about every time is I was sending out an email and it was meant to have 10 different dynamic coupon codes. And I was sending it out to a small segment, about like 2,000 people. And I made the simple mistake in Klaviyo where I didn't make the coupons all dynamic. Like I did like coupon code 1, coupon code 2, but I didn't do the correct logic to it. So I sent 2,000 people all the same coupon code. And then what happened though, was that people responded back and was like, ma'am, well, it wasn't in those words, but I'm going to pretend it was like this. Ma'am, you sent us 10 of the same exact code. This email's useless, or, and then it was like a huge disaster for like the support side of customer experience, because then we had to like go back. I had to go make an apology email. But my point is, okay, but here's the thing though, like that's such a common mistake to like maybe mess up a logic in like an email campaign. What I learned from that, I double checked my work all the time now, but 2, I will never make that mistake again. And I share that mistake when I'm training somebody on how to like do email marketing campaigns. Make sure you're checking this logic. Like I'm passing on that info,
I'm hearing that, and I can totally relate. One time when I was working in internal communications, we had internal distribution lists, and I made a mistake in the email, and I was young in my career. So I was like, hey, let's just recall it, even though it went out to hundreds of people in Outlook. And, once you recall something, it's a whole disaster on its own. So it ended up going through to a bunch of senior leadership, but not the other people that were supposed to get it. So I might as well have just sent a GIF of David Rose going, hey, it's me, walking into a room, because it was just email marketing. Gotta dot your I's and cross your T's. Make sure you're always double checking everything.
But listen, like one last like comment about it. It's like everybody makes a mistake, man. And you got to make a mistake to learn your lesson. Listen, I've made way bigger mistakes in my lifetime. Listen to the podcast, episode 1, season 1. That is my career mistake that I've made that bleeds into the rest of my career.
I'm looking forward to listening to this post our discussion. So you've got me really excited for the rest of my day. Thank you so much, Jess. So I'll dive into the questions that we kind of talked about previously. What does a day in the head of customer experience look like?
Yeah. So, a lot of like what I do just at Feastables and just in consulting is that, there's support. And I think traditionally a lot of people think customer experience is just support, but actually the pillars of like what I build is support. There's community. There's also a digital experience component. There's retention. There's life cycle marketing. Like there's several different facets of customer experience, right? So in short, like high level, but what the day in the life of like what I do every day is like, it's not that no day is like the same. I don't want to say that because I think that's really generic, but I think that when you solve a problem for your customer, it's not that there's like another problem. It's what's the next iteration of how you make that experience even better. And so what I mean by that is like in support, right? Like in the support side of the house, like, okay, we've answered all the questions. We've done all the things on our FAQs. We've deflected all the tickets, but what else can we like answer for the customer so it doesn't become a support ticket, right? Like, how do you stay 10,000 feet in front of your customer, right? On the digital experience side, like I have really robust web and chat bots, right? That yes, help with deflection, but really they're an engagement channel for our customers. And I am looking at those and like, all right, what's the fallback report? Like what were things that weren't being understood? How do we make this a doper experience so that it's like, it's always ever evolving, right? And on the community side, how do we keep our community engaged? Like I know it's very high level, but like I'm constantly every single day thinking about how to make the experience even better than it was yesterday. And it's an ongoing project.
Oh, I don't think it's anything that ever stops, right? It'll be going on forever. It'll never be done. There'll always be more work to do. So it's really exciting that you're looking into all those different pieces. How do you always make sure you're 10 steps or 10,000 steps ahead, rather, of your customer?
I think the easiest way to put it is putting yourself in your customer's shoes. I know it sounds so generic. I get it. But like, think about it. Think about it from everything that you're doing. Like, let's just take like a CPG company, right? I have a product and I'm like looking at my product and I'm developing out my product. Okay, my product, yes, has a taste. It has like, attributes to like what it is to consume it. So like thinking about like, what is my customer thinking about this? Going back into data and information that our customers have given us about other products, right? Like what are their likes? What are their wants? Going down to, okay, so now like I have that product, but now I have to wrap that product into packaging. How do I answer the nutrition fact before it becomes a question for us? How do I give them the right allergen information? How do I make it accessible if you have additional information, where to go? Maybe it's not just an email. Maybe it's a QR code that leads you to like, our website and an FAQ page, right? Like, I don't know, I'm just making up things on the fly, but like, I'm like thinking about it from like every aspect of like that product. How am I constantly keeping the customer at the forefront of that development in every piece that we do? So even in the packaging of what's printed on it, what is the materials of that packaging that is being utilized? Are my customers going to agree with it? Am I contributing to, a sustainable lifestyle? Like, just, it's like, there's so many questions that you're going to constantly answer and put yourself in your customer's shoes. And if even taking a step back, like not even just like on a CPG aspect, right? Like an a D2C aspect, like, how can I make a website that answers the questions for my customer at the time of them browsing before it actually becomes a support ticket and like they need help from somebody? Like it's just thinking about their entire experience with your brand from every single touch point.
That's fantastic. It's like being the customer internally to your internal teams, but also being the brand externally to customers. You're kind of a little bit of both and wearing those hats and kind of going back and forth between the two, which kind of leads into our next question. So there are a lot of people who say that in 10 to 12 years, the only brands that will exist are the ones that are going to deliver stellar one-on-one shopping experiences. That's definitely true, but I also think it has to do a lot with customer experiences. As an expert, how would you define an excellent customer experience in the direct-to-consumer space today? We kind of just talked about that, staying 10,000 feet ahead, but what are goalposts or staples that a D2C brand can use to make sure that they're providing a good customer experience?
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, definitely have like mentioned it already about like being 10,000 feet in front of them, but that's thinking about it from like a acquisition point of view, as well as retention point of view. But I want to like challenge this question slightly, because it's like, I can give you like those answers and I can give you those answers from like a retention and acquisition point of view. And like, they're going to be like pretty much the same. Right. But also one thing I want to bring up is like a really dope experience that I had with a brand that I actually I can't utilize it. And I want to talk about this because I'm a churned customer, but I had a dope experience and now I am word of mouth for that brand. So here's what happened. I purchased a product, a shower head. And this is going to be a brand of the week moment. Okay. I purchased a shower head from Jolie Skincare. And I like moved into this new apartment. I was super excited about it because I like really a nerd about like water condition. Listen, don't come at me. I just like really care. Okay. Anyway, point is, I get this shower head. I get to my new apartment. It doesn't work with my shower. And I was like, damn, that sucks. Like, okay, like I'll have to go use a different product. Right. And I put off trying to return this product because I was like, man, I do not want to go to the post office. I do not want to do this. Like, I don't want to do this. Right. So finally, I go to the website. I go to their chatbot because that's naturally what we do. I first went to their FAQ and then I went to their chatbot. And I did the steps of returning all this stuff. It was like a Sunday. And I was like, hey, I need to return this, whatever, expecting to get a response back on Monday. I actually got a response back within 5 minutes. And my response wasn't return label. My response was actually like, hey, I've already refunded your product. So sorry about this. I've canceled your subscription. Hey, but listen, why don't you keep that product and give it to a friend that needs better water conditions in their shower, right? And I was like, man, that's a really dope experience that I just had because you refunded me with no questions asked. Yes, you canceled my subscription. Yes, I churned out, but now you're allowing me to like take this product that's actually, I'm sure, very expensive to produce, right? And take that and give that to a friend. So I had another girlfriend who was also moving into a new apartment. I gave it to her. She's super stoked about it. But like in this interaction, there were two other people that were around. And I was like, oh yeah, I bought the skincare product, but I bought the shower head product, but it didn't work. But I had this really dope experience. Those two people, not even the one I gave the shower head to, those two people then went out and bought a Jolie skincare shower head. So my point is, this is my point. If you're a customer in the next 10 to 12 years and like the demands are all going to be very high and you think about all these acquisition and this retention and all these things to keep those customers and keep those customers coming back, what are you doing for the customers who actually churn out and making those experiences, turning those experiences into smiles rather than frowns, right? Because now what this company did by doing this one thing for me, I just acquired them 3 new customers. Right?
Yeah, and all they had to do was respond quickly, provide a great service, and make sure that you were happy with what you actually bought, especially when you're paying good money for something and you expect it to work. So that is a great example. And I love that you shared that because I think so many people, especially folks who tend to buy a lot of things online, will order things and maybe not know what size they are or if it'll work with their appliances. And just from a customer experience perspective, like you said, always being 10,000 steps ahead, always understanding what questions could come in, always having in your back pocket how you can make it right, not having to say, oh, let me go talk to my supervisor to see if I can confirm a refund and you can ship it back. Because I don't know, like every time I have to ship something back, I'm like, I guess I own it now.
Yeah.
It's never leaving my house. Like,
I mean, absolutely. Like, dude, I can also tell you a horror story of like another brand that I was like super excited. I'm not going to go into it, but like there is like a complete opposite story of that, where of another brand that I was super excited about. And they just like weren't transparent. They weren't honest about my subscription. And then like ended up churning out and I had a terrible experience. And now I'm telling my friends, don't use that brand. You know, it's like, you got to think about that experience of that customer at all aspects: acquisition, retention, churned out, the people who might not ever buy from you, but maybe they'll refer you. Like, I mean, that can go into community building. We can go into a lot of places.
Yeah, we only have 20 minutes, but we'll try to cover as much as we can. Going back to what you were mentioning earlier about a fallback report, for those who don't know what that is, can you go into a little bit about what fallback is in customer experience?
Yeah. So fallback actually related to the chatbot specifically. So, you know, we have these like always on experiences, right? But like, it's not always going to answer the questions every minute for the customer or every time for the customer, right? So it's like, you got to be like cognizant of that. And you have to constantly be making new iterations. And this philosophy can actually apply into like every aspect that you're doing within your brand, right? So what this fallback report is on my chatbot is anytime like the bot does not understand what the customer is saying or the interactive user is saying, then it goes onto a report. And then every day we check that report to then see like how we can improve the AI, how we can like make new module pathways. It's just like, it's honestly, it's exactly that. A fallback report of like, didn't work, make new iterations.
Love that. And I love how it's applicable to anything that you're working on. I really like that term fallback too. So collecting all that feedback and making what you're working on better. I'm going to shift a little bit to gamified store experiences. What do you think of gamified experiences and personalization as a factor that contributes to overall customer experience?
Yeah. So, I mean, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, though, like the demands of your customer are just higher and higher. Like, I've helped several brands, launch or, revamp their support or whatever it is. Right. And I've just like watched these customers just like expectations just being like, what? Do you really like, okay, you said that you need that. I get it. Right. But my why that's relative to like gamifying and personalization is because I think that you can gamify an experience and it's not always about like giving a discount. Hot take, okay? I don't think gamifying means that you have to be like, oh, take an action, we'll give you a discount once you take that action. I think gamifying could also be an engagement standpoint for you, right? So what I mean by this, in exactly what I mean by this, and also a level of personalization is like, and again, going back to staying 10,000 feet in front of your customer, right? You could create, let's just say, an SMS campaign. You can create an SMS campaign, and maybe that marketing campaign out isn't like, hey, go buy this product for like this amount of money, right? Maybe it is like, hey, I'm a coffee brand. I don't know. That's the first thing that came to my mind. I'm a coffee brand. Do you know where our beans come from? That's it. Literally just asking a question where you have two flows. Yes, no, yes, perfect. Okay, let's play a trivia game. Right. And then when it's a no to like one of those questions, then that's an educational opportunity for your most loyal customers that know about you. The second pathway is the no. Maybe I don't know where your beans come from. That's an education opportunity for you to say no. Oh, well, that's interesting. Our beans come from Costa Rica. Right. And then this is what we do in the process. Okay, cool. Here's another question for you to take a yes or no action on. Right. What you're doing, like, this is a simple engagement pathway, but what you're doing is literally you're getting your customer to engage with you in a gamified way because you're not giving them anything for free other than information about your product. And you're building a brand loyalty with them because now they're educated on your product to then be like, oh, well, I like this coffee brand because where their beans are coming from or because of their process of like their beans, whatever it is. Right. And I just think that I think that that's a dope experience for your customer, and it's an education opportunity for your customer, but it's also an ability to be 10,000 steps in front of your customer by offering them product information before it becomes a ticket.
Everything's holistic, right? It all comes back, the flywheel, everything impacts everything. And I love how you're talking about all these pieces, but they can also be used in different areas of the funnel, not just awareness, but they can also be for retention, like reminder campaigns. They work across the funnel, which is fantastic and really gives marketers and D2C brands an opportunity to get to know their customer at every stage. That's really, really cool. And while we're on personalized experience, I love the example of the coffee trivia. I think that's really, really neat. But in addition to that, how would you personalize interactions that your customers have with a brand? What's the best way to go about personalization instead of the email where you go, hey, first name, because that's so 2010.
Honestly, dude, I think this comes back to my tech days. So I just want to like take it one step back just really quickly and like think like explain the logic behind this. Okay. So if I worked in SaaS, right? And so I'm a brand or I'm a company that like puts out a feature, right? For my customer. What if that customer didn't like it? What if that customer has feedback? There's a bug, there's this, there's that, right? In tech support, you have to create like a feedback loop to take that information back to the engineer and the dev team, right? Maybe the marketing team, whatever. That same theory applies to D2C. that same theory applies to honestly any brand, like whether you're D2C, your retail, like whatever it is, right? Because I think that the level of personalization starts with actually listening to your customer. So what I mean by that is customer experience gets so much information from like a social sentiment, from a community standpoint, from like support tickets, that digital experience I was telling you about, right? Like I build out analytics and reporting to feedback loop all of the information and all of the things that the customers are saying to then bring back to supply chain, to marketing, to operations, to all the levels of the business, to then be able to be like, oh, our customers like this, our customers didn't like this. Oh, the customer loved this attribute, but didn't like this one. Maybe we should develop the product, our next iteration into this. Or, oh, they really liked this marketing campaign, but they didn't like this. So by actually listening to your customer and developing out this like feedback loop, that's a level of personalization that's like far deeper than just writing an email that says, hey, Jess, blah, blah, blah. Here's my standard marketing campaign to you. So like, that's how I think of the personalization, in the sense of actually listening to your customer and applying that logic and applying that information back to the development of your company.
Wow, I think that's such, and I know I need to work on my transition statements, but I think that's such a fantastic answer. I think, especially when you think of feedback loops to product, to supply chain, like you mentioned, even to marketing and sales, understanding what the customer is actually saying so that you can create value in your product. Because I've said this before, but value is co-created. And in order to create value, you need to give value. And in order for customers to perceive value, they need to find value. So it's all about how can you make the most valuable experience that allows customers to then generate that value for themselves and your business. So word of mouth, like with your shower example, what are some of the best working incentives that brands can put up for shoppers to actually engage in a gamified experience? I know you said you don't like discounts. Maybe there are different offers. I know we talked about education pieces. Is there anything else that you've seen work? In terms of offers or incentives?
I mean,
it could be a hot take.
I actually have a hot take. And I have a hot take on this one about what not to do. Is that okay?
Yes, that's totally okay.
I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to name a brand up in here. Okay. But I have seen something that's really interesting happen where it's like, sign up for our email list and we'll give you a 10% off discount. But then the website is still 10% off, no matter if you signed up for the email list or you didn't sign up for the email list, right?
I feel like that's so very common, actually.
Right. I know. So this is why it's a hot take. Here's my thing. What incentive are you actually giving to that customer to actually sign up for your email list? Why don't you like A/B test your website? Why don't you like gatekeep that discount? Maybe it's like force them into, I hate to say this, and this is probably like, this is why it's a hot take. Okay. Force them into actually signing up for that email. And then after they've signed up for the email list, then open the website. Don't make it available to every person, because what you're doing is, one, you're confusing the customer experience. Two, you're honestly downgrading your brand by saying like, oh, if you do this action, then you get 10% off, but then I'm going to give it to anybody, whether you sign up or not. That's a bad look. Right? Like that's an absolutely bad look. And you're also going to create a huge mess for your customer experience team. Like it's just not a cute look. So my point is just do a little bit of gatekeeping. Maybe it's not 10, maybe you have your whole website is 10% off and that's dope. But maybe to your email list, you're giving 15%. Or maybe it's like, once you've hit that submit button for your email, then the website opens up at like the 10% off. And it's still forcing the customer to take that action, but you're actually incentivizing it and making it a better experience to actually get that discount. Even if that discount is like not that huge of a discount.
For sure. And people expect discounts. So I understand why there is that pop-up and then why they offer the discount site-wide, but give it a few minutes. Let people, come to your website, convert, maybe have a version of your website that's personalized. So if someone just came through that funnel, they don't see the 10% off discount for everyone else. There's a lot of things that you can do, albeit I agree with you. The overall experience of offering a discount and then having a continual discount is not super great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also sometimes I find, and this is just a personal opinion, that too many discounts can kind of make a brand look, I'm trying to think of the word here, but it lessens the value of your brand because people don't want to pay full price for anything. And as a D2C brand, especially an early stage D2C brand, your margins are everything. So if you can save those margins on discounts wherever you can, why wouldn't you leverage that, right? And generate good lead and offer great customer service. I love your hot take there. It was a really great discussion. And I think I definitely agree with that. I've seen it on a bunch of websites, not the nameless one. I have no idea which one you're talking about, but every time I see it, I'm like, why would I give you my email address when I just put this
the
promo
experience code? I think that's really the hottest take out of it. It really cheapens the experience.
Definitely. Okay, so I'm just going to go back through the questions again. We have a little bit more time. The big challenge for early stage D2C today is the element of trust, because at the end of the day, if you can't touch the item, sometimes you don't know what it looks like. Maybe it won't fit in your shower, etc. Maybe you don't have a brick and mortar store that someone can actually go in and engage with the product. How can new age brands build trust for their products while at the same time having fun elements in their storefront experiences?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all contingent on like what that product is. Like if you're a consumable product, I think like one of the easiest things to do is like give the nutrition information, like answer the questions before they become a question. Like for instance, like if you're a consumable, most common question is, are you halal? Are you kosher? Like that's a very easy thing that you can answer, right? About like what those ingredients are. And then, try to paint that I'm talking about consumables and then I'll like switch, but like try to paint that picture about like, what is the emotion, the feeling of when somebody eats that bar or like that product, right? Like, or, consumes that drink. What type of like action are they taking? I know, I get it. This is like marketing 101, but I think people like forget about this stuff sometimes. Like, it's like, you really need to speak to that, like, what is my consumer going to feel and want after they've consumed that product, and painting that picture as much as possible. And I think, and honestly, I really think like founder stories and why you've created that product can go a long way. There's a really great tool out there that can help you do this. Like, this is literally just a hot take. I'm not like out there like, oh, you should do this, but like, this is the first tool that comes to my mind that like does these things really easily. But there's a tool called Tolstoy. And basically what Tolstoy does is like, you can like film a founder, like Fly by Jing, for instance, is a product that like does this, right? So you have this like really like dope experience, this dope product. It's like chili oil, right? But like, that's something that's like a consumable that's really hard to like get your flavor profile across to like a user. So it's like, yeah, I can sit there and I can give you all my ingredients and tell you like what you're going to like feel and do with this. Right. But like a founder story of like why this was created can go a long way with your customer on the digital storefront, because it gives them a sense of connection to why they want that consumable product. Right. And I mean, I know, again, that is food, very food related, but I think that same theory can be applied to, let's look at beauty, for instance. I think it's really hard for you to buy makeup online and be like, oh, I'm going to really like this makeup. I'm going to like this makeup or this eyeliner when you don't actually know anything about it. So it's like content, videos, and like being like showing people like doing actions of like using the product in like maybe those skin tones or taking quizzes, like are very like easy ways for that customer to get like that want and feel of the product. A brand that does it really well is this brand called Gen C. So like they have Instagram social Instagram social. I don't know why like y'all didn't know what Instagram was. I don't know. Anyway, like on Instagram, they have stories or reels where it's like, a woman who is more olive skin tone like me, right, is utilizing a blush and maybe she's using the lipstick and this and that. And then if you can purchase it in Instagram for sure, or you can click on the site and it actually takes you directly to the site and takes you to that same exact woman in her skin tone and like what product she's using. It's like closing the gap between social back to the digital storefront with content creation, and also taking that content back to your digital storefront to like make sure that, you know, you understand like what you are going to feel or want or look like when you utilizing this product.
This is going to be a really weird example, but I don't know if you've ever watched Food Network Stars when it was really big on Food Network. It was basically a reality television show about how to be the next Food Network star. And they talk a lot about how selling food and selling something that someone can't taste, it's about the experience. So you have to share that storytelling, because if you're just looking at someone being like, I'm chopping tomatoes, I'm putting the tomatoes into a soup bowl, or I don't know how to cook, apparently. I'm doing something with the tomatoes. Like, that's not engaging. And people, what's so different about watching that as opposed to just reading a recipe, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of like to think about that because I'm a reality television junkie. So like, you know, those types of examples always relate back. And I love how you talked about that, creating your content, showing folks reflected in showing people that they are reflected in your marketing and that you care about them and that you're creating that cycle for them. So I think we're about at the end of time. I'm going to leave you with one question that I ask everyone. And what is your favorite piece of advice that you've either been given or that you gave and someone took off running with? Besides, let's go make a podcast.
Yeah, I know. This is going to be another hot take that I don't think it's going to sound more aggressive than it really means to be. But I personally think that if you, in like customer experience, if something becomes a ticket with an agent, then we're not doing it right. And the reason I say that is like, because my whole philosophy is trying to stay 10,000 steps in front of your customer and answering the questions and the qualms that they might have with your brand before it's actually a question in like a chat bot or with an agent or somebody else.
That's a great way to end this. Thank you so much, Jess, for joining us today. Everyone, make sure to give Jess a follow on LinkedIn and all your socials. Make sure to check out the Oopsie podcast and give Mason a follow on LinkedIn. Again, thank you so much, Jess, for taking the time to be with us this morning. And I hope you have a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you.
Thanks.